Great. So we'll kick off. So thank you to those of you who've joined. This session will be recorded and available afterwards and sent round. So do feel free to take a look at it, and also feel free to share it with anybody you feel it might be useful to. So to get started, I'd just like to point out that if for any reason you want to sort of skip ahead and find out a bit more about what we're going to cover today, we do have a quite good resource online on our website, which covers apprenticeships in data science and AI, and tells you about all the different options available, how apprenticeships work, the different learning pathways, and all the benefits and things to consider as well. So do feel free to head along to that if you wanted to find out more. So I'll just introduce myself quickly so you know who I am and why I'm talking to you today. So I'm Tony, and I head up our training solutions at Cambridge Spark. I spend most of my time working with our strategic client partners, advising them on how best they can develop any analytics, data science, or AI skills and capabilities within the workforce. So helping them to design suitable solutions, usually combining apprenticeships, corporate training, so short courses, as well as some sort of pathways around specific skill sets that are needed for different groups. Bit of a varied background, but very much STEM focused, having studied biotech and strategic management in university. I've worked in science, FMCG, agtech, edtech sectors. And it's great that I'm in the L&D industry, because I really am passionate about learning and helping coach and mentoring others. If you do have any questions or wish to connect, my LinkedIn is there. Also, do feel free to drop me an email after the session, and also feel free to put questions in the chat, and we will hold some time at the end for answering any questions if you have any. Some very brief key information, just to highlight our current, our next starts, which is sort of January, February 2021. This is for apprenticeships, and when those key dates are. So 16th of November is our deadline for applications for January, February 2021 start for both our level 4 data analysts and level 7 AI data specialists and data science tracks. We do also have our BSc and MSc with Anglia Ruskin, but that will be in September. So again, do feel free to apply for that. And in terms of the enrollment process, get in touch via our website. There's plenty of forms or ways to get in touch through there. Or if you are a learner or even a line manager, do get in touch with your apprenticeship or L&D contact, and we would be able to have a conversation with them. There will then be a registration form which we'll send, and then we have to go through eligibility and prior learning assessments, which is important to be accurate on. But yeah, that's the key information if you are actually interested in applying or starting an apprenticeship. So a little bit about us and what we do. So we're a specialist data science and AI education business. We've been delivering training in the space since we started in 2016, and only recently, well, within the last 2 years, started delivering apprenticeships, both as non-integrated, so direct as our main provider, but also as part of a degree. So we do a BSc and MSc, and we do deliver modules that form part of our apprenticeship programs as just sort of short courses within some of our clients. So it's there's a lot of flexibility in terms of what we do and how you can learn with us. Here's just a few names that we work with. So it's quite broad, and you know, I think it highlights the fact that a lot of the training, the data analytics, data science and AI training we do it's quite agnostic when it comes to the the industry that, and also the different functions that they're being applied. So data is everywhere ultimately, and it can be used in many different circumstances. And just quickly, a brief overview of, in case it's of interest, some of the programs that we run. So we do deliver both practitioners as well as leadership training. From a practitioner perspective, you can sort of group it into two categories. Starter, that's, you know, for early careers graduates or those who are looking to reskill and just start off in the area. And we do also deliver to more experienced individuals. So these might be experienced programmers, anybody who's maybe come from a data analytics background or done some previous learning and is looking to really upskill and get into sort of more data science, machine learning, or AI skill set. And within that, we've got both apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships, but also from a non-apprenticeship perspective, we run in-house academies and learning pathways, but also deliver short courses, all of which use the same curriculum. Cool. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk a little bit about data and what all the fuss is about ultimately. We'll talk about apprenticeships for those of you who haven't come across them or haven't used them before. So I'll give a little bit of background about those and how they work. And we'll talk about the different learning pathways in data science and AI. Do have a brief case study and success story that we can share with you. And then we'll go into a bit more detail about the actual programs that we offer. And do feel free to ask any questions about that when we get to the end. Great, so let's kick off. So I think it's important to highlight the need, particularly around data science, AI, in the market and even in the UK economy, particularly, and the impact it's having on businesses. There was a recent survey done that actually showed 83% of AI decision makers believe that deep learning skills shortage is actually affecting their business's ability to compete in the market. Another 49% said the shortage is delaying strategic projects, and another 44% said the shortage is posing a major barrier to further investment in the sector. And it does seem that the current approach, which has been very much focused on hiring isolated teams and experienced data scientists to work on deep learning projects, is actually really delaying things. So there is an alternative with a potentially different solution, which is actually looking at talent that you already have at hand, and providing existing teams with the tools and skill sets they need to actually capitalize on that. So, you know, that particularly presents a massive opportunity, given that the supply of talent just isn't there. And ultimately, this is affecting the work and the strategic competitiveness of a lot of organizations. You know, and this is talking about the bleeding edge, you know, in terms of deep learning, but this example actually is relevant all the way through from, you know, sort of data analyst all the way through to data scientist, data engineer, machine learning engineer. And, you know, if that wasn't enough, it's even Microsoft has said that they've had the same sort of issue, or the UK is having the same sort of issue. And also this focuses more on actually, well, okay, we're looking to implement AI projects or data science projects, but bringing something from proof of concept to actual production and being able to use it has been a major struggle. But it's one of the key, or a couple of the key factors in making sure that's successful is having the sufficient resource and expertise through education of employees, helping them to embrace the innovations, and also creating champions for them. So there needs to be quite a holistic approach to make this work. It can't just be, I've just put some of the employees on a course, or I've hired somebody. You know, there has to be quite a round and robust approach to developing employees, and also ensuring that individuals within the business are there to take this forward. And data, I think you've probably heard, is actually nowadays the most precious resource. The most valuable companies in the world are all based around data and digital, you know, the likes of Google. But there's more to it than just, you know, using it for consumers' purposes. Data actually presents huge value, even within our economy and within our society. So the opportunities are huge, and I think those businesses that embrace it fast will see their growth and their just the general development of their organization actually accelerate, rather than go through the traditional growth pattern of plateauing. And the opportunity around data is everywhere. Whatever sector you might be in, or even whichever department you might be in, it might be finance and understanding, being able to look at projecting and predicting late payment, for example, or even cash flow forecasting. It might be around demand planning, so understanding what are the drivers of demand and actually producing projections to help also with operations and manufacturing. So getting a better idea of what demand is coming through, but then even in manufacturing, how do we create more efficiency within our production facilities, both from perspective of running particular products, so reducing downtime, predictive maintenance, so being able to produce more efficient ways of actually maintaining machines before they break down, customer service, getting better insight into how customers are using the product, where the complaints are coming from, and really categorizing them and being able to understand where the biggest risks are, where the biggest opportunities might be. So it's so broad, even in L&D. If you've got a large workforce, how do you actually manage their skills matrices, and what sort of courses are available, how those match to the needs across the organization? There's huge amounts of data there, and actually using traditional tools like Excel, or even if you've not even got Excel, is going to be almost impossible to really process that. So there's huge opportunities in terms of efficiency, but also delivering further value for the organization and even for yourself. And you'll see that I'm actually quite a big fan of Harvard Business Review as a source of analysis from industry and business. But they published an article back in 2018 talking about what great data analysts are and why every organization needs them. And I thought a really great quote was that if you're in doubt about who you're going to hire, that analyst should be really top of the mark, because of the different individuals within a business, the key ones that you need are A, decision makers, and then B, the analysts, because analysts will provide that evidence and that insight to help decision making. So ultimately, if you've got those two characters, so to speak, you're in a pretty good place, because you'll be using data-driven insights that's based on facts to really help drive your decision making. And on top of that, you'll be able to process more data faster, which will also help decision making. And this was a classic, a well-known article back in 2012, but it still rings true today. The data scientist is actually one of the sexiest jobs about, and there is huge demand for them, for data scientists, but there's also a huge undersupply, because the demand, the rate at which demand for data scientists and good data scientists and experienced ones is growing is far outstrips the rate at which the supply is being filled, the talent's being developed. So it's really critical for the industry, the economy, and even organizations to make sure they've got a steady flow and a steady pipeline of talent coming through. And that does require a bit of a balanced approach in terms of recruiting. But on top of that, recruiting won't fill all your needs, and also can be quite a long process. So being able to supplement that with potential upskilling internally is going to be a winning strategy. So it's clear that there's a huge need within the economy, and also various the market to really develop this talent, and it's what's really led to the new level 7 AI apprenticeship, which we've just launched, and we were on the trailblazer to develop this program with the likes of the BBC, for example, who we've partnered with to actually deliver to some of their employees. So this is a cutting edge program. There's nothing like it in the UK. We are the only provider of it, and it is focused around developing data science, AI, and machine learning skills, and it's all funded by the UK government. And I think this highlights the importance strategically for the UK economy, but also the organisations in the industry that need these skills, to have government funding for a program like this. And the effort that's gone into develop this shows how much of a need there is. And this really will go a long way to start tackling that shortage of data scientists and also machine learning engineers. Just a quick quote from the BBC in terms of what we're providing, and this will go a long way to helping employers, UK universities, and also education organisations such as ourselves really start to develop a centre of excellence around data science and apprenticeships. So sorry for those who already know, but I'm going to explain a little bit about what apprenticeships are. And there is a bit of a stigma, I think, historically about what apprenticeships are, but they've actually moved on very much from what they might have been conceived to be. But ultimately, they're an exciting option for apprentices and employers. There's no real limit to who can use them other than anybody over the age of 16, and they cover such a breadth of skills and vocations, whether it be cybersecurity, data science, of course. So there's some really high level and technical topics, but whether it be an administration role, a sales role, learning and development, there's an apprenticeship for pretty much anything you can think of. And ultimately, they're a great way to really ensure you get a really comprehensive, high quality means for learning, while also ensuring it's relevant to the role and applied. So a big key part of this is that actually individuals on an apprenticeship will apply their skills while they're learning. And it's actually, for some organizations, completely revolutionized how they think about talent and how they develop talent and acquire it as well. Here's an example from someone at the NHS who says it's completely transformed how they recruit. So being able to use an apprenticeship, you can both upskill employees internally, existing employees, but you can also recruit into an apprenticeship. So you're no longer reliant so much on somebody that has all the skills already. You can develop that internally and build that pipeline of talent that is so much missing from a lot of the more advanced and technical areas of skill. And in terms of the apprenticeship, one of the great benefits of it is it's government funded. So for larger organisations who have a salary bill of over £3 million, an apprenticeship would be 100% funded by the government through a levy that's being paid. But smaller employers that don't fall into that bracket actually only have to pay 5% of the cost. So as an example, a data analyst apprenticeship is £15,000 in total. So having to pay 5% is only £750 for what is basically a 14-month program with certification, coaching, extensive learning. There's no way you'd be able to get anywhere near that sort of level of value through any other scheme. So it's extremely powerful. And how do they work? So as I mentioned, they're suitable for new or existing employees. So a lot of the employers we work with will either look to upskill some of their existing staff or even recruit into new roles to develop them. So whether you're upskilling, you might want to reskill individuals. So one example is, some roles may become redundant because of the introduction of automation. Well, that presents a huge opportunity. Those individuals could be reskilled into the areas and the digital skill sets that you're actually missing. And it can also help develop talent. So particularly from a young age, and if you've got early careers talent or school leavers who maybe don't want to go direct to university, this, an apprenticeship provides a huge opportunity for them to actually learn on the job while earning. And, there's still the opportunity to do a degree apprenticeship at the same time. So they're no worse off. So yeah, in terms of the upskilling, some of the benefits, there's no need to search for scarce talent. You can promote from within. It also helps foster loyalty from your employees and also familiarity. And it really does drive engagement and retention. And those are particularly challenging in the area of data science. Because there's such a shortage of talent, staff can move around quite quickly and quite regularly. And from an apprentice's perspective, massive opportunity for career development and longevity. And it also shows a commitment and investment from the employer. So as I mentioned, in terms of loyalty, actually 90% of apprentices do stay on in their place of work after completing an apprenticeship. So huge benefit there. Talent attraction. So being able to offer an apprenticeship in a specific area can be a huge draw for talent that might be out there looking for a new role or a new opportunity. And it's employer led, so there are opportunities to adapt that training, particularly if you're looking to hold maybe an in-house academy. It gives you a lot of opportunity to shape that apprenticeship for you, but at the same time, the learning has to be applied in their role and to their work. So ultimately, that covers 20% of the apprenticeship. So actually 20% of that whole learning is completely and utterly relevant. 80% of that program will be relevant because 20% of the time they're learning, 80% of the time they're applying the skills, and that will be in your place of work. And inclusion, so great way to diversify your workforce, and that's particularly challenging in the sort of tech and STEM sectors. Gender diversity particularly can be quite difficult. So using a tool like an apprenticeship to attract a more diverse workforce and then upskill to help create diversity can be really, really useful. It's completely skills focused. So as I mentioned, it's all about applying those skills and that learning. And they are certified and regulated by the government. So actually learners receive certification. And also there is that comfort that these have been regulated and monitored by government bodies to ensure that they are high quality. And this is regarding our specific programs for apprenticeships in data. We use the British Computer Society, who are the Chartered Institute for IT, and apprentices who do pass their endpoint assessment receive a certificate and could get a pass distinction on merit. But apprenticeships, while they are really attractive from a funding perspective, they're high quality, they're really comprehensive, and take a really holistic approach to learning. There are some requirements for them. So the first one is employment in relevant roles. So learners do have to be in a relevant role where they can apply the skills. So somebody starting a data analyst program, they have to be working with data where they can actually apply those skills. If they're not, they won't be eligible for the program. And even if they did start it, they would really struggle because they need to be evidencing through building a portfolio, and also to pass their endpoint assessment, they need to show how they've delivered or applied those skills in the workplace. So really critical that they are in a relevant role, and it is also important that they are employed. Apprenticeships are an employment-based program. They do also need a decent level of English and maths, and by decent I mean there is an expectation by the end of the program they should have level 2, which is GCSE equivalent English and maths. Now, individuals who don't have a GCSE qualification, if they have an international equivalent, that works fine. If they don't have that, they will need to do a functional skills exam to show that they have the required level of English and maths. That is just the requirement of apprenticeships, regardless of what area they're in. Next is experience. So, and it's not how you would normally assume it to be, that you need the right experience, although there is some truth in that. But actually having significant relevant education or experience in the subject that you're going to take an apprenticeship for is not beneficial. The whole idea here is that to receive funding to learn something, it should be new to you. So the government does not want to fund education for something that you already know quite a bit about. So it's important that, for example, if you're looking to become a data analyst or do a data analyst apprenticeship, that actually you haven't done a computer science or data science degree. That's what's really, really critical to remember. And the last one is basically commitment to time for learning. So all apprenticeships require the apprentice to spend 20% of their normal working hours on learning. And this has to be evidenced. It's non-negotiable across the board. So the idea is that 20% of their time, which, you know, for somebody working full-time would be on average 1 day a week, has to be spent on learning. So that's not actually applying skills. That should happen in the other 80%. So they should spend 1 day a week roughly learning something new, and the other 4 days of the week applying it in their job. And that 20% off the job can often be a bit of a sticking point, because it does seem like quite a commitment. You know, you can think about it from the perspective of, well, I might be an apprentice, or I might be putting someone on my team on an apprenticeship, and I'm going to lose 1 day a week. Now, it's worth just digging into that 20%, because there are ways, or there's important ways to look at it to understand how it can be beneficial. So the first way to look at it is actually that 20%, how much in terms of what is already occurring in the workplace that somebody might be doing on a regular basis, whether it be research for their job, reading, attending any events or conferences, watching any webinars, job shadowing as well. So, and also discussions with peers about the work that they're doing, or sharing best practice. All of that falls under that 20%. And I would bet you there's a significant amount of that that's already occurring. So the idea that this is an extra 20% and an extra day a week that's being lost to learning is probably not true. We actually find that it can often be roughly 10% that they're already doing. So, you know, it wouldn't be unreasonable to expect that throughout a whole week, you know, 3 or 4 hours might be spent on looking things up and learning something new and learning how to do something differently. That as long as it's relevant to the, obviously, the apprenticeship, and it should be because it's relevant to their role, that all should contribute towards that 20%. On top of that, any classes, lectures, etc., that will all be covered. And one of the other benefits of an apprenticeship is that the return on investment we can often see within the sort of first 4 to 6 months can far outweigh the cost of somebody spending 10, 15% of their time on an apprenticeship. And I'll give you an example from a case study and success story we've seen later. But, you know, that cost of someone's time is returned very quickly. Right. So I'll just pause to see if there's any questions in the chat. Let me just pull that up. Okay, so I don't think there's any questions just now, which is great. So again, at the end of the presentation, we'll be able to follow up if there are any. So learning pathways. I'll give you a little overview of how these work, but to start, I'll explain a little bit about the different areas of data science, machine learning, and AI. Now, obviously, this is all very clear to somebody from a technical background, but for the average person, it maybe isn't so clear. So in terms of what artificial intelligence are, because that term does get bandied around, it's quite sort of all encompassing, and a big part of it focuses on machine learning. So machine learning is really the basis for AI. And actually within machine learning, there's deep learning as a subset. That's a more intricate approach to machine learning. And then you've got data science, which a large part of it is machine learning, but actually it encompasses a lot more around different tools to be able to analyze. So machine learning is all about helping a computer or programming a computer to be able to analyze and do something itself. data science, there's a big part of that which actually doesn't rely on machine automation and learning. That is simply about exploring data and looking at ways to manipulate and extract value from it. And then big data as a concept, that's all about how you can manipulate, analyze, and drive insights out of large data sets by using specific tools. So hopefully that gives a little bit of an explanation. And in terms of the roles within data, we start off with a data analyst. This is probably your sort of entry point, and probably the role that you would have the most individuals within an organization and the greatest need. As we mentioned, data analysts provide a really critical role within an organization in terms of analyzing and being able to provide evidence and data-backed evidence for decision making. So they'll often be focused on using data to produce reports. They'll be working on ad hoc queries to answer questions, providing some business intelligence, and they'll also be looking at diagnosis of any sort of problem that might be faced by the organization. Next up, you've got the data scientist, and this is, a lot of the work they do is obviously similar to the data analyst, but actually it's taking it a step further and looking at, rather than just reporting and looking at and diagnosing specific data sets and answering specific questions around what's available here, they'll be looking a bit more into the future, working out how they can start to predict things and also look to produce recommendations. And they'll also be looking at how to present that data in ways that can be really useful to the organization. And then we move on to some more engineering focused roles. So we've got the data engineer who, while they work a lot with data, are actually more focused on the systems that are used to scale data usage and data analysis and data science across the organization. So it's much more of an engineering role than it is data focused. So how do you build the systems that everybody in the organization can access the data in an efficient way and a robust way, so without corrupting data? How can you scale that across the business, but also putting in the systems to actually monitor that everything is working as it should? And then finally, you've got the machine learning engineer. So this is quite a new role. It's quite an advanced role, but again, it relies on an engineering background and engineering principles. So they're really focused on how you can take machine learning models, which are often developed and conceptualized by data scientists, how you can take those and turn them into a product that actually is usable by the wider organization, or it might be internally, or it might even be externally for customers. How do you put that into production? How do you then performance tune it? So making sure that it's operating efficiently, but then also ensuring that the method of developing a model and then putting it into production is repeatable and structured and reliable. This was an article that came from Forbes a few months ago, and it is based on the US, but actually I thought it was a really interesting look at how apprenticeships can be really impactful, and it all focuses around the fact that actually an apprenticeship is solely based, is very much based around application in the workplace. So it bridges that gap from maybe traditional higher education, where you're working in a silo, you're working on theoretical situations, you're not necessarily applying something in a workplace, in a real world environment. An apprenticeship actually bridges that gap because you are learning the conceptual stuff, the theory, but then you're also applying it. So you're understanding all the challenges that come with actually bringing this stuff into reality. So ensuring that you actually have that transfer of knowledge and build that robust understanding of application is really impactful. Obviously I'm preaching the benefit of apprenticeships, but here's a third party to really help back that up as well. So I talk about this holistic approach and the application, but I wanted to sort of give you an idea and insight into how that works, particularly with how we deliver it. So we've got a learning process which is very focused on experience. So it is an experiential learning process, and for those of you who do come from a learning background, it's basically built on the Kolb cycle. So the first step in the process, as you'll know, is all about learning. So this is where we introduce new topics, new concepts, and we do that through live interactive workshops. So learners will be introduced to a topic or a concept, and they'll be explained how it works and how it can be used. But then in the workshop, they'll actually start to use it and apply it with small exercises, and this happens mainly through Jupyter notebooks, as it's all sort of coding based. Once they've completed the workshop and that learning, the next stage is experimentation. So we have a platform called educate.ai, which we've developed ourselves, but is very much focused on real world experience and practice. So it gives you real world simulated problems and projects, which are tied for each module and each concept tied to those workshops. So you complete a workshop and then you'll tackle a practice project on educate.ai, which would simulate something you might need to do in your job. So it might be analyzing a set of customer complaints and trying to categorize them using the coding skills that you've just covered. So the nice thing about Kate is you can tackle that problem, submit your code to Kate, and you immediately get feedback and a score on how well your code is performing, and you'll get recommendations as well about how to improve it. So it's a really fast process of iterating, reviewing, applying, and you go round and round, and you can submit as many times as you like. So it just makes it a very engaging way of learning. And the great thing is it's a sandbox environment. You're not going to break anything. So, and it's also well structured. So it really helps drive that engagement in the learning process. The other thing it does is it removes the manual step of having to produce some work as a learner, submit that to a tutor, for example, and wait for them to review it, and then also write notes, provide feedback. That comes back to you, and then you have to then find the time again to start learning. So rather than having to wait for that and have that long feedback loop, actually the learner is in complete control of their learning. And that really is a key basis of why we can deliver our programs in maybe a shorter period of time than would normally be expected. So it really accelerates that learning process and creates a very gamified learning experience as well. The next stage is application. So where educate.ai has provided that stepping stone from here's concepts, theory, you then have that stepping stone of practice. You can then start to apply it in the workplace. So you've developed some confidence around how you can apply these different tools and topics and skills and technologies, brought them all together. Now you can actually apply it. So we do this particularly through work-based projects, and through the data analyst program, you maybe have 4 work-based projects to work on. The level 7 AI program, it's 2, but it really ensures that all that learning that you've embedded and you're comfortable now about applying, you can actually show an evidence how you do that. And that is really key also for your endpoint assessment. The last stage is reflection conceptualization. So you have all apprentices of regular coaching sessions, both one-to-one, but also with their line manager. And these are progress reviews. So it makes sure everybody's on the same page, as well as those coaching sessions, which help review performance, smart goals, setting smart goals, and building that learning plan. There is also, through the work-based projects and writing up the projects into a portfolio, there is that reflection as well. So there's an opportunity to really round off that learning. This is just a quick overview of the different learning levels, because I will talk about programs like the level 4 data analyst, which is basically the equivalent of the first year of an undergraduate degree. And then we do have a level 6 BSc, so that's an undergraduate degree. And then we also do have a master's degree. and also a level 7, which is a non-masters, which is basically the same level. So that just gives you a bit of an idea of the different levels that we cover. And this is how they look. So we've got the level 4 data analyst, which is a really impactful way to sort of get started in the area within data. So it's a 14-month program and actually gives you good opportunity to move either straight into a AI data specialist level 7 program, which has both a data science and machine learning engineer track, or even move into an MSc in data analytics. And in terms of who they suit, so there's a couple of groups. So anybody with no programming experience or who's a beginner programmer, your best bets, your best places to start are either the data analyst level 4 or the level 6 data science, BSc. Anybody with intermediate to advanced programming experience can go straight into a data scientist level 7, or even the MSc in data analytics. And there's one slightly different group that is anybody with a software engineering or computer science background. We have a specific track on the level 7 AI data specialist apprenticeship, which is for machine learning engineers, and that's to really help plug that gap. So it's a conversion course for software engineers or computer scientists. And I did mention that I'd give you a little bit of insight into a success story and a real world case study. So we run a level 4 data analyst academy for GSK in-house. And one of their apprentices did something really amazing in their first sort of 5 months of the program. And that's just with covering a few modules. But they managed to write an end-to-end Python script for their team, which automated the data collation, processing, analysis, and also produced an automatic and interactive visual dashboard for his manufacturing team. And now his tool that he's developed is being used by 3 global teams. There's anywhere up to 54 active users using it at any one time. And actually the benefit, which has been estimated, is approximately £30,000 in IT resource. And this is also quantified as sort of weeks worth of man hours in what was actual manual data intervention. But it's also helped enhance the decision making and also value that's come out of it. So it's a really great example of, we talk about the 20% commitment as well. That 20% can produce huge benefits to the business. And obviously it's great for that apprentice and for his line manager as well. Right. There's no questions in the chat just yet, so I'll continue just to finish off in terms of the different programs that we cover, and then there'll be opportunity to talk about any questions at the end. So we do run 2 routes for the non-degree apprenticeships. I mentioned for GSK we run an in-house data academy, so this is typically for teams of 20 plus. We run preset intakes throughout the year, so those are September, February, and May. And with an in-house data academy, you get some nice tailored services, including case studies. We run a bespoke data hackathon, and that happens halfway through the program, the level 7 or the level 4 program, as well as workshops. And we also have a dedicated account manager. And then when it comes to the open enrollment academies, so the great news is that if you've got smaller teams or individuals, they are absolutely able to take on the same learning that everybody else is. So again, same set intakes, but it means learners can actually come from multiple employers, and it actually produces a really great opportunity for networking as well. So two routes into accessing the apprenticeships. And here's just a quick overview of the data analyst program. So it's a 14-month program. It covers data analysis techniques in Python with work-based projects. So it's suitable for anybody with no programming background. We have virtual live instructor-led workshops, and there's also flexible e-learning on Kate. There's real-world simulated projects, as I mentioned on Kate. You have study groups. There's a data hackathon. Every learner gets a personal career coach as well, who will be responsible for their learning. And there's also technical mentorship on top of that. And the assessment and certification comes from BCS. And we cover topics including Python to start, data processing, data visualization, so being able to build interactive dashboards, we also cover machine learning, supervised and unsupervised learning, time series analysis, big data as well, and then we do cover some more sort of business focused modules, including skills for data analysts and also data ethics and regulations. And then there's the brand new AI Apprenticeship Academy, which actually is a 15-month program. This is the program we've developed with the BBC, and we are the only provider of in the UK. And there's two pathways. So there's the data scientist and the machine learning engineer pathway, which is targeted at converting software engineers and computer scientists. And it is open. So there's no limit on number of learners. So it is a combination of learners from multiple employers. And as mentioned, it's 15 months. Again, same structure in terms of live instructor-led training, flexible e-learning on Kate, study groups, hackathon. We also do academic paper reviews because this is a high master's level program. And ultimately, these learners need to be ensuring that when they finish the program, they are staying at the bleeding edge when it comes to topics. So it's important that they are comfortable researching and understanding the latest in terms of the latest techniques. Again, personal career coach, there are technical mentors on top of that. And it's a really robust and comprehensive curriculum covering everything from the maths required, machine learning, supervised and time series. So there is some overlap with what the data analyst program covers, but it is more advanced. Big data systems as well. And then we go into some of the more advanced topics such as software testing, ensemble methods, neural networks and deep learning, natural language processing, how to interpret and evaluate models. So you may have heard, about black box models, and these are machine learning models where it's actually quite difficult to explain how they work and why are they making and how are they making the decisions that they're making. This is a really advanced module that covers that. And on top of that, we cover product management for AI. And then we go into the two specialist tracks. So data science specialism, we'd cover recommender systems. So, your Netflix, that's all based on recommender systems. How do you ensure that, you're recommending the right sort of content or other relevant, materials for different individuals, and then also going into software engineering practices for data scientists. And then for the machine learning engineer track, we talk all about machine learning and production. So that was that topic I mentioned around how do you bring models that are being produced by data scientists and put them into production. And then we have our degrees and degree apprenticeships. So as mentioned, we do a level 6 data science BSc. We also do a level 7 MSc in data analytics, which is 2 years. The BSc is 4 years. And then there's also an MSc, which is a part-time non-apprenticeship. So it's the same program as the apprenticeship, but available as a non-apprenticeship. Right, that's it from me. If you do have any questions, do feel free to email me or also connect on LinkedIn. So I'm going to end the recording there. If you have any questions, do feel free to pop them in the chat.